Hi, Molly.
Hey, how's it going in Florida? We're still here in New Jersey, chilly.
Yeah, well, I like the weather in Florida better. You get to be my age and we all migrate south. Welcome to the Kulanu podcast with Molly and Boni.
And Bonnie,
You had a
it
great idea the last podcast about having a piece on Jewish education.
was your idea, Bonnie. Don't give me the
Oh,
credit. It was your idea.
well, I'll thank you. Well, maybe it was.
Yes,
Um,
it was. Yes. So
you
we're going to
know,
talk about Jewish education today.
Right. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, there's the same problems around Jewish education that you find in Africa and emerging Jewish communities you find in America. We all know all the studies about how important Jewish education is for creating Jewish identity. And while in America, we have lots of institutions and organizations and synagogues putting out information and cues to people who want to know about Judaism in Africa, while they do have internet, the reach of Judaism is much more localized. And there's a struggle to bring in the teachers, to bring in the information, to bring in the books, to bring in whatever. Um, yes, so let's talk first about adult education in Africa.
Right. I think it's important too to mention that, a lot of our communities are new to Judaism. So we work with isolated, emerging, and returning Jewish communities. So a lot of them have come, from different religious backgrounds. Others are, have these family traditions that, are Jewish, but they really want to just learn more. So learning is really important for these communities. And I feel like that's something that's really you see all across, all of our Kulanu communities, all our partner communities really just want to learn more about what it means to be Jewish, how they can be Jewish, what practices they can do and how they can learn.
Well, they get it in different ways. They have personal contacts with rabbis all over the world, in Israel, in America. They go online, you Google any mitzvah, and you can have a whole history on Aish or Chabad, and you can hear all about that. You can go on the websites for Sfaria, but it's different than when you live it and you see it, and you go from, we can go shul hopping. So we see different practices and what it actually looks like living Judaism. There's no shul hopping. So the visual part of the practical part of living is challenging. And while you can read from a book something, it's much stronger if you see it in real life. And that's why teachers come to them. They have guests that come to them and spread whatever Jewish practices they have. I mean, I'm always afraid a little bit that it's a little imperialistic that they want Judaism to look like Judaism in America or Judaism in Israel. But I say there should be an African Judaism. There should be
Right.
an Asian Judaism, right?
I think that's part of the thinking behind the Setzer and Jewish Alliance. And that has helped them really understand what it means to be doing Jewish and living Jewish in Africa, because they're confronted with a lot of the same, situations, the same problems. And so having that network and them to, have people that they can WhatsApp and learn from, and even like the Jewish programs, the Jewish learning programming that we do, for them to be together on a Zoom and have a chance to ask their questions, I think is really important because they're surrounded by others that are living in, closer circumstances.
Yeah, there's a WhatsApp group called Ask the Rabbi, and on occasion they post a question to ask the rabbi. We try to give them access to information, but it's a struggling kind of endeavor. I also want to say that some of them are very, very educated. I mean, they're more educated than, say, the average, what I would call Joe Jew in the streets in New York, where where they don't know what Tisha B'Av is, or they don't know what Tu B'Shvat is. But in Africa, they're really very learned. Some studied in yeshivas in Israel, the lucky ones who could get visas. They'll be the next rabbis. They'll be the next Talmidei Chachamim, the next generation of Jewish scholars coming out of Africa. So, and regarding the kids,
Right. So we have the adult education, the online, the rabbis, the classes, even the study groups, and lots of learning even under a tree, on Shabbat.
right? Right. They have Shabbat groups. I once went when I was in Madagascar. I made a whole big deal out of studying Bechavrusa in partners, where two people can pick up a prayer book or the Parsha, the weekly portion, and actually read it to each other and come up with insights. You don't need rabbis to teach. Anybody can pick up a text and study it together. So throughout my travels, I've tried to encourage chavruta learning in couples or small groups. The other thing I used to try to push, but I don't know how far it went, was book reviews, where somebody would read a book of Jewish nature and discuss it in a group. So yeah, there are ways that they do learn, but living in groups is much more educational.
Right, right. Each person gets to learn from one another and kind of in their own interpretation of the text. I think, everyone likes to do that, and it's good to be together. So I think that's very great that you're trying to do that.
So talk about the schools. I know you did a lot of traveling this year. You visited more schools than I visited. So go talk about the schools.
Yeah, so Kulanu supports formal schools, formal Jewish schools that are in Uganda, Cameroon, and Nigeria. So I was fortunate enough to go to Uganda this year and visit many of the schools that Kulanu has supported. So we had the Hadassah Primary School in Mbala, which is where most of the Abiyudaya live. So the Abiyudaya are the Jewish communities in Uganda. And so the largest concentration of the Jewish communities is the Hadassah Primary School. So the Hadassah Primary School is one of our longer partnerships we've had in Uganda, where we were helping fund the school, which is a Jewish school. So they really follow the Jewish cycle. So they follow the holidays, they learn Hebrews, they prayer, but not all the students are Jewish. So it's Muslims, Jewish, and Christian students all going to school together. So Kulanu supported the school. So when I went there, they had a beautiful singing and dance show already prepared, so they could really thank all the support that Kulanu has given them over the years,
Can
as
we see
well
the
as
video? I think
see the
it's time
video.
to see
Okay.
the video.
Yes, we'll let the kids take it from here. Wasn't that a great video? I mean, I
I
was just
think
so
so.
impressed, right? Seeing it live, that went on for probably about 10 minutes. They did a few other different programming that they had already set up. So it really was important to them to show off their dancing and their singing skills and the coordinations of all the students working together. So that was really great to see. I also got to see the Ben David Primary School, which is in Kulanu, which formerly was called Apach, and that is a school that is actually in 3 different log cabins. So they have different classrooms inside the
Log
log cabins.
cabins.
Log
Log
cabins, yes.
cabin. That sounds like Abe
No,
Lincoln in a log cabin, right?
I was gonna say George Washington, but yeah.
Uh, I think it's Abe in a log cabin. So they have these classes in a log cabins. 3 of them?
I have 3 log cabins, yes. So Kulanu helped fundraise for those 3 schools to be built. And so they have 3 schools, 3 different, they're basically classrooms, just long classrooms. They have 2 different classrooms inside each log cabin. And so they are continuing, to do their Jewish education as well as, their secular education as well. It's
Oh,
happening
so
at
wait, I
the
have
school.
a few questions. They have
Sure.
electricity in these log cabins?
They do not have electricity now.
They don't, they don't have solar? Do they have
They do
solar?
not have solar now. They do not have solar.
Hmm. Do they
But
have
the
computers?
room,
What do they
they do
have?
not have computers now.
Who are
They
the
have,
teachers? What about who are the teachers?
so we have, you can see in the photo here, we have the school itself. It's a log cabin. There's a little bit of light coming through, so it's fine, during the day while school's in session. And then also they have chalkboards in front of the classroom. So they don't have smart boards or computers or things like that, in the classroom there, but they do have books and blackboard. So they're able to, write on the board, the lesson for the day, as you see.
That's cool. Okay. I'm curious, like who teaches?
So here we have different teachers. So we have the community leaders are actually serving as teachers because this is a very small school that is just being started in a more remote village. So this isn't in the larger city of Mbala where most of the Jewish community is. This is out in a small rural village where there aren't so many options for schooling, which is why it was important to have a Jewish school there because the public schools were very, very far away. So that was also why the community wanted to build the school and is assisting by, teaching as well many of the subjects and has some teachers as well that have come in that are paid in order to,
Like
ensure that they're getting the education.
the government doesn't put any money into these schools?
No, the government does not put any money into the private schools. So each of the Jewish schools counts as a private school. They will, however, give them books for the school. So they will, so that way they can ensure they're following the curriculum that the schools have put in place, but they do not get funding from the government.
Pardon my asking, do they have latrines? What? Do they
Yes,
have
they do.
running water in
Many,
the
many
class?
of them do. Yes, I believe all the schools I visited had latrines. Yes, so they do not have running water, but they do have latrines. So it's, basically just a squat toilet hole in the ground that they have, and they even have boys and girls, so they're separate, two little blocks. Typically is how they're arranged.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds like America before it developed, actually. Sounds like yeah, like rural
Right. It's
some.
it's amazing, how you can make things work, even without running water or electricity, students are still learning.
Yes. Okay, you you met there's other schools you visited, right? In
Right.
Uganda?
So I
The
visited,
Hadassah, wait. The Hadassah, let's backtrack. The Hadassah school is the largest, right? And the oldest.
right. So that is actually a boarding school also. So the Hadassah school is a boarding school. So the students there are from, a larger area of Uganda. So they come there and they stay there throughout the 3 terms of the year.
How many kids are in Hadassah?
Right now, there's just under 300, but the pre-pandemic there
300.
were over 400.
And in Apache and in the log cabins?
In Apache, they only have probably they're up to maybe 45 or so kids. So it's a smaller school. It's a smaller place also.
Interesting. Interesting. What other schools did you visit?
So I went to visit the high school. Um, so we call it SK High School. So that's the one that's named after the founder, Seme Kakunglu. I think I said that
Kungulu.
properly.
I think Kungulu, maybe.
That so yeah, so he is, the founder of the Abiyadaya. So the high school is named after him. So that school is,
Wait, do you know about him? I know a little bit about him. He
yeah, can you tell us about him?
uh
Now that since you know how to say
about
his name better.
over 100 years ago, maybe 103 years ago at this point, he missionaries came to Uganda to try to convert them to Christianity. And I always think of it as the missionary miscarriage in a way, because they said, hey, let's do Jewish here. We don't see the truth in the Gospels. So he led a congregation of people who really began to follow Jewish practice. And now in Uganda, the kids in the school are like third generation Jewish. maybe fourth generation you even have there. And you have even a rabbi, the first homegrown rabbi in Uganda, Rabbi Gershon Suzomu. He went to rabbinical school in America, but he's the first ordained, as far as I know, rabbi in Uganda, in all of Africa. Like that's the sort of indigenous to Africa. I mean, that's a goal, to have lots of Africans being trained as rabbis. They don't need American rabbis. They don't need Israeli rabbis. They need their own rabbis and their own leaders to, grow their own communities. Okay, what's the next one?
So then I also went to the Jonathan Netanyahu
Wait, were there
Memorial School.
videos on that one? You have any pictures and videos?
I have some photos from the high school. You can
Oh,
see
let's
it's,
see them. I want to see
okay, well,
them.
I don't have video, but I just have a few photos. So you can see here we have the science lab, which I thought was really neat. They have a skeleton in the corner so that the students were all together having a discussion with the teacher. And then I was also able to see some of the dorm rooms there. And you see they have mosquito nets for malaria as well. So, and here's the showers. So that was also funded by other organizations as well. So
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Mosquito nets. I know. The funny thing is, when I travel, we take these anti-malaria pills and we use mosquito nets. And people give us mosquito nets, but in my backyard in New York, I have more mosquitoes than I saw even in Papua New Guinea. I mean, the mosquito problem is bigger in New York City than it is in the places that I've been taking anti-malaria medication for. Though everybody there does have malaria, which is a huge problem. Okay, is that the schools you
right, the issue is the
visited?
mosquitoes carrying the malaria. So
What? Their
the issue
mosquitoes.
is the mosquitoes carrying the malaria, right?
Yeah,
Not just
well,
the
our
bug bites.
mosquitoes carry West Nile and other. Yeah, I know. And we know somebody who passed away from West Nile here. What else is there, Molly? What else did you
So
visit?
we also have the deaf education program that is in two different schools in Uganda, depending on the age group. So we have 13 students that we are educating that are deaf that have Asher syndrome. So that's
John,
a
what's
initiative.
what's that syndrome? It's a Jewish genetic disease there, right? It's not
Correct.
affected by
You're
the
right. It's a genetic disease. It's in the Abiyadaya community. So there are a few families that unfortunately carry the gene and then they married. And so now there are, children that are being born with Usher syndrome, which means they're born deaf. And then as they get older, they'll progressively go blind, probably by mid-adulthood.
and it's
So,
and it's multiple kids in a family sometimes, right?
right, right. So I met one woman who had 11 children, and there were two of them that had Asher syndrome that, Kulanu was working with and were in the deaf schools, and then one that was also hard of hearing that was trying to go to the public school.
And I know these kids were like picked on, right? And they were
Right, right. It was really life changing. I mean, I was able to meet with the families and hear from them about, one of the uncles said the most beautiful thing about how before they were kind of like wild animals. And now, after they were in school, they see they can be a part of the family. They now go out and they help in the fields. They're able to send them to the store to pick something up. And it was really like interesting that, he felt like that this child, was now able to be a part of their family and a part of the community versus before, they weren't. So the education, especially now, since we know they're going to be going blind in the future, it's important to get, as much education in now as they can.
Molly, such a wonderful program, such a big mitzvah helping these kids.
Right,
Yeah,
right. It
I
was,
know. I
it
think
was
you have
moving.
some video. You have a video to show or some pictures?
Yeah, I have photos of this. So, right, you can see here. So the woman here in the center, she wants to become a nurse. And the one boy in the red shirt, he would like to be a carpenter, and the other boy would like to be a plumber. So they, have high aspirations. So these are the students that are in the secondary school and the vocational school right now, that are in the program, sponsored by Kulanu.
So in the last few minutes, let's talk about the two other schools that I'm sort of familiar with. Okay, in Cameroon, there's a school um, that's been around at least 20 years. Um, it's run by, they call him Rabbi Bezalel Eluna. I know him as Laurent. And he was an ex-bishop, and he lost his whole community when he turned to Judaism. He's pretty learned, and his school is great. The kids learn all kinds of things. I do think we have a video of them, which we will post soon. And and they sing and they learn, and they actually, this group is a little different in that some of the teachers are women in the community who take on women leadership roles. So it's a little bit different than some of the other communities. While they do call themselves Orthodox, there is a active women's participation in this school, and teachers and promotion of the school. I mean, I think all of the schools have the challenge of how do we recruit students, right? I mean, how do they get new students? What did you find?
Well, in Uganda, it was really that they had a small teacher ratio. So a lot of the public schools have like 150, even 200 students in a class. And so the Jewish schools, it's much, much smaller. So having like 30 to 50 kids per classroom. So that was really something that a lot of the parents found very important. So that was how they were kind of trying to
Okay,
sell the school.
so I'm going to give the other school that I'm a little bit more familiar with. It was renamed after me, a big honor, like I'm humbled by it. It's called the Bonita uh, International Jewish Academy. It had many students and then went into financial crisis, and Kulanu has actually helped fund it. These kids are unbelievable, and I know we have a bunch of videos that you'll enjoy. The kids learn Hebrew, they sing Hatikva, they do Israeli dancing, and they give me kosher recipes. The girls learn how to cook, and they give us recipes, and it's a very exciting school. They have Benita t-shirts on, and they have their name on their machberets, on their notebooks and everything. I'm very humbled by it. I mean, anybody would be. It was kind of a big surprise that they wanted to name their Jewish school after me. So that's kind
Let's,
of what?
I want to see a video of the students.
Oh, there's where the you'll
I
love
think
these
my favorite's the
videos.
Hatikva.
Okay, I think we need to begin to wrap this up. And we're going to have more exciting podcasts down the road. Molly, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited for our event coming up with Marla Shabtai, and with her film on Ethiopia. So that'll be really great. That's coming up next week. So I'm excited to do that. And I'm looking forward to our next podcast. We have so many more ideas to share.
I know I was thinking maybe we want one on how we distribute Torahs around the world. That sounds like an interesting topic, right? People be interested in that one. Okay, everybody. If
Yes,
you're in
thank you.
Florida, stay cool. If you're in New York, stay warm, or in the United States, stay warm. Bye. Thank you.
Kulanu.org. So it's KULANU.org/donate.